Hello, everybody, and welcome to Norm, the Cheers pod.
Uh-oh.
Oh no.
Isn't quite. It is great to be back. A week off to celebrate Union Labor Day. It was delightful. I hope you are supporting your unions out there. The world got a little bit worse as we were gone, but what else is new? Just, weather in Texas and yeah, but good episodes of Cheers this week, which is what we talk about, and that's our focus. So, in our tiny, minuscule corner of the world, things are grand. I am joined, as always, by Tookie and Dave. We are jumping
Oh,
first
no.
into season three. Very, very good about season three because I thought these first two episodes were really fun. Frasier is joining. What's happening? I feel like did my pants come off? You guys look like you saw something shocking.
You're a
Like
little
you almost
glitchy,
both
Mike.
simultaneously went, oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're a little glitchy, a little
Oh, boy.
freezy.
I think
Okay.
Xfinity has a
Is that-
vendetta.
They must be based in Texas.
Ooh. Well, you're good now.
Oh, we just glitched. We're good now?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Let's jump in, and if I need to move, I'll move. But not to Texas. Okay. So it is grand to be back. We are starting with season 3, episodes 1 and 2, which was you guys are frozen again, aren't you? I froze again, didn't I?
You
Yeah.
did, yeah.
All right, let me move. Hang on.
We're doing it live.
Live. Yeah.
Here, I'm going to remove Mike from the stream.
Another argument.
Just temporarily.
Oh, my goodness.
So
Well,
finally, we can finally do the Tookie and Dave show that America's been clamoring for.
we've taken over.
Give
Finally.
the people what they want.
This is what
is-
they've come for.
This is the content people come to these free websites for.
Yes, us rambling about. Well, actually, that concert thing. Do you want to tell our fans at home about that? That feels exciting.
Oh yeah, I'll talk about it. It's a AS220, which is a local concert venue and artists mentoring institution here in Rhode Island, long-term institution. Basically pivoted to streaming like everybody else over the pandemic, and over the summer has been recording concerts, live concerts by local musicians, and streaming them periodically. I think a couple times a week. Usually, I think on Tuesdays and Fridays. So this coming Tuesday, I'll be. You can see a little preview of a record I've been working on. 10 songs recorded with my friend Keith Munslow from the AS220 Studios. We recorded it in July. I have no idea how it sounds, but I'm sure it's going to be interesting. And you can find that on AS220's Facebook page or on their website.
Nice.
That was a heck of a
That
sort of guided intro, Tookie. Thank you.
Yeah, that perfectly worked out. Look at that.
That was beautiful.
That's why
almost like
I set up that technical problem.
It's
That was
almost
so
like
we
Tookie
could do our
Kavanaugh.
focus group on Tookie and Dave, no Mike, and the approval ratings shot through the roof.
Oh, stop.
Roof
There are
breaking.
people clamoring out in my street, out in front of my house right now.
Yep. I felt it.
It's mostly my
I
neighbor's
felt
dogs
it.
over here.
All right, let's jump into this. Season 3. I was so happy with episodes 1 and 2. Frasier is here, and he'll be a part of our lives for the next 25 years. I was really, really happy. Okay, season 3, and I've kind of previewed some of the episodes, and so far, none of the episodes are making me go like, "Oh, we gotta wait for that one." They're real strong, very consistently throughout. So we're starting with this one. We're doing 1 and 2 because they're really one contained story. So Dave, what was going on when Cheers came back into our lives with season 3, episodes 1 and 2, Rebound.
So they premiered on September 27th and October 4th, 1984, respectively. On September 27th, Avril Lavigne was born.
Wow.
Which is, kind of like a nice little touchstone. But what's really, I think, important about these dates and this season in particular is it's it's the first time that must-see TV, that Thursday night comedy block has finally come together like Voltron. This is the premiere season this year of The Cosby Show, which is going to lead into season 3 of Family Ties, season 3 of Cheers, and now season 2 of Night Court. And all of these shows are going to dominate Thursday night ratings for the next, I think, 5 or 6 years. It's just like a somewhat unprecedented, not unprecedented, but a fairly rare television juggernaut that NBC is establishing. And this is the 27th is the first date that all those shows air back to back to back to back.
This was a time when Cosby simply meant ratings dominance.
Yeah, I got really. I was doing a little Cosby Show research and I was shocked by how sad I got thinking about the show, which I really had forgotten how much I adored it as a kid, and really it was one of the things that I definitely watched with my family. It was something we shared together, and it's such a bummer that I can't watch it ever again without that kind of hanging over it. I mean, one tiny droplet of a bummer amidst a gigantic series of much larger, much more terrible, horrible bummers.
Indeed.
Yeah. And it is true. Yeah. And no one is saying that our TV enjoyment somehow equates to what was going on and that this should not have happened. But it's not a little thing that, millions and millions of people who shared this thing that brought them a lot of joy and bonded them with their family is now ruined. That's a thing.
Yeah.
That's a thing. And that's a sad thing to mourn appropriately. I mean, he was a figure that meant a lot to a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, and it's destroyed. That's hard. That's really tough.
Yeah, I have a lot of really fond memories of listening to Bill Cosby stand-up cassettes in the car with my mom, and that was something that we both found that we loved and shared joy about. And it's once again, it's a bummer to look back on that and not be able to see it without the specter of his horrible behavior hanging over it. So terrible thing that happened, but the establishing of a pretty incredible entertainment juggernaut at this time, which again was a pretty other than that sort of what was it, Newhart and Mary Tyler Moore, those shows that were running back to back, not a whole lot of comedy dominant lineups like that in TV history.
I feel like a bad person for saying this, though. Was never a fan of his stand-up like that. Loved his acting. Didn't like his comedy.
I think that's very fair. The thing about Cosby stand-up, it's very much, I think it really depends on when you got it. Because a lot of it aged much worse than many of us realized or acknowledged, at the very least. I mean, whole segments about beating his children with his wife. It was
oh, cool.
I mean, that was a whole segment about taking out a yardstick and beating them. And the other thing about Cosby stuff, and Pete Cosby was still brilliant. I do still go back and enjoy that. But what a lot of people don't acknowledge is that the man didn't edit. I mean, you go back, he released an album pretty much every year on the clock, like clockwork, for money. I mean, that was how he made his money. And if you ever, when I was on the road touring, we would sometimes find old albums of stuff. We'd be like, oh, look at this. And we popped in an old Cosby album from 71. Unlistenable. Absolute dreck. And this is like late 90s, before we knew anything other than this is the most wonderful man in the world. So you were making a very valid point.
Okay, fair.
Like,
okay, cool.
anyone who watches some of the old Cosby stuff and is like, I don't get it, I'm like, yeah, fair.
Yeah.
But some of that old stuff, his original stuff, him talking, Noah talking to God, I still go back and I'm in tears laughing about some of that original stuff. And maybe it's just because I heard it at the right time and it tickles my funny bone in a nostalgic way, but I do still love it. But yeah, when you go back and look at when he was touring in the comedian documentary and he's doing 2.5 hours and you're just going, that's not 2.5 great hours. Even as revered as he was at the time, there's no way he was doing 2.5 brilliant hours of comedy. We all just loved him enough that no one was saying, boy, there's 45 great minutes inside of this 2.5 hours.
Who has the time? 2.5.
His fans, they were all retired. You know, Jerry, he has time to take the Porsche down to Jersey.
Freaking Jerry.
But yeah, it's really hard to explain to people what the Cosby Show meant when it started. It was so big, they would change their whole schedule around it because no one wanted to face it. They would have, like the World Series games would change their off days based on when the Cosby Show was going to be on. It was assumed number one for years and no one else was close.
Yeah, there was that incredible sort of moment in the 80s, kind of coming out of what I remember is like that HBO special, which I think was a little bit more sort of carefully edited.
Himself.
Really kind of, and really put together beautifully in a much, perhaps a little more concise stand-up package that really kind of delivered that, like, that Cosby family material stuff, like, in a really effective way, and that rolled right into the Cosby Show. It just sort of like, just like, it made him literally like the biggest star in America at that time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, and for obvious reasons, like he had a huge cultural impact because it was, I think, one of the first shows that depicted an all-Black family not struggling, and not equating the Black experience to struggle and hardship, and I think that is part of what really set it apart. And they did discuss race, but it's sort of like they lived in a universe where racism didn't have as direct an impact on the characters' lives as it would in the real world, because you don't hear the stories about, like, for example, Claire Huxtable having to face much opposition in her ascendancy, other than as a lawyer, other than like this one particular episode where she faces off in a room full of like stuffy old white guys who are like, oh,
the TV
woman.
show.
Yeah. I mean, other than that, there's, you don't hear about like, workplace discrimination or a teacher slighting one of the children in school for achieving a little too much. You're not the right color to be it. You're smart, but you're how dare you outsmart a white student, or teachers dismissing Theo Huxtable's intelligence because of his race when in fact he was dyslexic, where it's like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with you surface wise, but why aren't you learning as quickly? Oh, it's because you're dyslexic. And they don't, whereas some students might have like ADHD or dyslexia or whatever other learning disability, but because of their skin color, it's equated to having somehow inferior intellect. With Theo, it's like, no, this is a bright kid. What's going on? It's rare that teachers ask what's going on in the real world, depending on the skin color. So with the Cosby Show, it's like, it's not that race is invisible or not a factor, but it's not a hindrance like it can be in the real world. And I think that's what's so significant, where it's like people can look at that show and just be like, this is just a family. This is just a show about a family. For once, we're a family. We're not like, good times hanging in the chow line and such and such.
I do want to shout out which is definitely pre, 80s. It still existed in the 80s, but it was right at the end. But Jeffersons was also a show that showed an upwardly mobile Black family, but that addressed the issues that come with being a Black person with money at that time in that world. And so, yeah, like the Jeffersons sometimes gets left out of that conversation, and it was a hugely important show at that time in the 70s, spinning off of All in the Family, which was another hugely culturally relevant show. But yeah, like I feel like, and I've done it too, where it's Cosby Show was the first one to show affluent Black people, and they were the first show, I think, to show extremely well educated affluent Black people, which is, I think, one of the reasons it gets that mantle, because somehow George, like having the chain of dry cleaners and having the first, like he started the first one after an accident settlement, and it wasn't considered the noble thing that the Huxtable affluence was. But even that's a weird cultural statement, that somehow his ascendancy was looked on differently because of how he achieved it, even though there's nothing wrong with it. Yeah. I mean, we're going to cover this more when we do our Jefferson's podcast.
Yeah.
Moving on up with Dave, Tookie, and Mike. But
I cannot wait.
Right? 9 more seasons and we're there.
Yeah, but I think the distinction before we move on that's really interesting to note is how with the Jeffersons, that distinction between them and the Huxtables, it's like the Huxtables is a little bit more unrealistic because they had access that not a lot of Black people do to resources to move up in the middle class. Whereas it's more realistic that George Jefferson comes from a background of not so much access, where access to class mobility, social mobility comes through the form of like a serendipitous, happy accident / lawsuit settlement.
Yeah.
So I find that more grounding than just like, hey, these are people who can just take out a loan and it's not an issue.
Right. Yeah. No, great point. Yeah. All right. Should we talk some cheers? Much as I love me some Jefferson stock. Tookie, let's talk about this cold open.
Oh boy, shall I do the first or second or both?
Dealer's choice.
Both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's dive into the both. Okay, so episode one. Episode one is we're all back in the bar after a long break, and Cliff in particular had just spent 2 weeks in Florida. He comes in, saunters in the bar, hey everybody, but no one gives a damn because it's Cliff. And he sits down at the bar. Some guy seems to recognize him and says, hey, you're back. Oh, it's you. From behind you look like a friend of mine. And Cliff tries to play it off as like, you jokester, you. And Coach happens to be there at the bar. He comes up and he has a blender. And Cliff is trying to talk to Coach and just wax poetic about his adventures in Florida and all the beaches and the enlightenment, the spiritual awakening. Cliff's third eye opened for like a hot second in Florida, which is cool. But every time he starts to go deep, Coach just kind of presses that blender button and starts blending. And Cliff just has escalating frustration to the point where, he just yanks off Coach's clip-on tie and dips it in the blender and presses puree. And Coach, in his confusion, was, anybody want a Mai Tai? And then realizing there's a pun there. And everybody laughs along with him. So that's the end of Cold Open 1. And in episode 2, which is ongoing from the day prior, but still within the same story, Coach announces that it's closing time. Cliff and Norm are still, of course, the ones left in the bar. And they said, okay, all right, well, I guess we'll head out. And Cliff offers to give Norm a ride to get something to eat at this hour. I have a wife to go home to. And Cliff says, well, we could pick her up on the way. I still haven't met her. And Norm, of course, rebuffs. And he's like, no, it's all right. I don't need to. And Cliff asks him in earnest, well, who are you more ashamed of? Or who are you ashamed of, me or her? And Norm says, a little of both. Roll credits.
Very nice. All right. Yeah, I enjoyed both of those cold opens. Poor Cliff took a beating,
Mm.
but he was mean to Coach, and then Coach celebrates with joy, which is very Coach.
Oh my gosh,
Perfect Coach. Strong Coach episodes this week.
Yeah.
this might be. This was like I thought peak Ernie Pantuso. These two episodes,
Yep.
like everything you expect from Coach, but also like all of a sudden like carrying the plot on his shoulders as well.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. Driving the narrative. All the best jokes. Just absolutely Pedro and 99. Just
Yeah.
Ooh.
really wonderful Coach episodes here.
Both sides of the
So
plate, absolutely.
yes, we are coming back after a stretch of multiple months. Sam has fallen off the wagon. Sam is boozing again, which is an interesting dynamic in a room full of alcoholics that somehow he's so bad that everyone's like, hey, this guy's got a problem. Coach is very worried. He decides that the only way to fix this is to go off and get Diane and see if she can talk some sense into him. There's sort of a B and C story, which is touched on there. This B story is kind of Cliff coming back from Florida, but it's almost not a storyline. It's going to be something that is peppered throughout this season and a little bit of the next season. Just talking about trying to get everyone to reference the fact that he went to Florida and that this is very significant. No one else gets to go to Florida, and Cliff is very special. And then the slightly uncomfortable storyline of Cliff trying to have or Norm trying to have a baby that he doesn't actually want to make his wife happy, which was a bigger thing back in the day, or at least a more talked about thing back in the day. Yeah, and it's weird, and it gets some jokes, but yeah, it's there, and it's a storyline, so you got to reference it.
Processing.
Yeah,
I'm processing.
processing. Yeah, there's one point, so they all know that it's happening, and Norm is not enjoying this, and there's a scene where Vera calls Bar to tell him that her ovulation cycle is peaking and he has to go, and even Secretariat got a break every now and then. And by the way, has anyone's sex life been referenced more than Secretariat at any given time? Like, that is the go-to reference for having to go off and go to stud.
It's Secretariat and it's Wilt Chamberlain, I think.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ooh.
Right?
Oh, I blocked that out of my memory.
Yeah. Wilt, God bless
It's
him.
just, I'm not here to kink shame, but that's so many germs. That's just germs.
It's a lot of germs.
Germs.
It's a lot of germs. And I don't have a ton of faith in Wilt having been the safest fella.
Oh no.
Yeah.
The worst food poisoning I ever got was after eating at Wilt Chamberlain's restaurant in Boca Raton, Florida. And I'm not saying these things are connected. I'm just saying that that's what happened.
That's where you fucked up. You should have ate at a Shula's.
That steak only knew one heifer.
Yep.
I'm not proud of myself for knowing that, but here we are. Here we are.
I will be proud for you.
Thank you.
All right, so those are our B and C stories. The A story is the repercussions of the Sam and Diane breakup. Sam has fallen off the wagon. He's drinking again. Everyone is worried about him. Diane had a nervous breakdown and went to a sanitarium. She falls in love with Frasier while she's there. We don't know that until the end of episode 1. Coach goes and sees her in an absolutely wonderful scene. The butler, who is now her stepfather, comes in because they can't afford Glynis Johns for this episode, or she was not available, and brings her back home. And yeah, to me, by the way, the 80s moment of both of these episodes was just how much they mocked mental health.
Yeah.
Just with careless abandon the whole time. Just loony, the lip thing. It was all throughout both episodes. Even the psychiatrist. It was really wild. Like, that is something that would not fly now. So Diane is feeling much better. She's in love with Frasier. Coach goes and sees her. She's saying, I can't see you because, I'm trying to close the door to that time in my life. Then he has a wonderful moment where she says, "Are you still there?" And Coach just says, "Western Union," and I laughed like I cried.
That's my joke of the
Just
week.
absolutely that. Yes, that take it. That is a fabulous one because there's a bunch of other ones that are in my running, and it was a great joke of the week. That, of course, in classic Coach style, has another callback a few moments later where he says, "I'm sorry, I had to fool you like that." Just wonderful. Coach gets Diane to come back to help Sam. They are talking to Sam. We realize that Frasier has been in the bar the whole time, surprises Sam. They start having sessions. They start having sessions after the end of the episode. At the end of the episode, we realize that Frasier and Diane are a couple. Coach notices it, and we go to black. We come back to the cold open, and then a recap from Cliff. Even though I know what's happening and I'm binging these and I'm watching them back to back, I still watch the recaps whenever they do them. I'm still very interested in them, and I'm watching them on Peacock where they give you the option of skipping recap, and I don't skip. I still watch them again. Yeah, I tip of the cap, Peacock. I'm really enjoying that streaming service. I don't know that that's getting enough love and attention, but there's a lot of good stuff on Peacock.
Agreed.
Yeah, good stuff on there, and it's either free or cheap, so it's good. Peacock. When we move over to that streaming service, just remember that this is where it started. So I really enjoy it. We come back about 10 days later into episode 2. That is how long Sam has been clean and sober. They're having a session, and it's really the birth of Frasier in that opening scene between the two of them, where he is just playing mind games with Sam to test him and get him to establish that, no, I'm strong enough and I don't need this. And Sam is in AA, which, by the way, never gets referenced again, I don't think. Like, I don't remember Sam ever going to a meeting the rest of the run of this show, but maybe that's just for off camera. Then Frasier says, "No, you're doing very well, wonderful." Diane comes in. They think they're both going to tell the other one that they don't love the other one anymore, and it's going to be hard on the other one. And they're both feeling the same thing, and then they have a nice laugh about it. Diane tells Sam that she and Frasier are lovers and ew, and that becomes an on-running joke. And I don't even know if it's so much Frasier as just the word lovers. It's never worked. I don't think it's worked since Live the Beaten Times. If I hear lovers, I'm immediately grossed out. I don't care who it is.
Yeah, that's really a spectacular work by Shelley Long, kind of like laying that word like a landmine that gives Sam absolute freedom to respond the way he does. Yeah, it's the way she says that word. It's a beautiful moment, and we all kind of go ew, and we don't mean that.
And we get those callbacks, and then Frasier is in. He realizes that everyone knows. They have a celebration. Sam has been sleeping with all the waitresses and then slept with the current waitress's sister. She quits. They need a new waitress. He decides that, oh, you could do it because that's someone I absolutely will never sleep with is Diane, which is, of course, ridiculous and perfect. And then she says no. They're getting ready to leave. Coach, wonderful, fabulous Coach stuff. Goes over and tells Diane, you know what? If you leave right now, he's going to be straight back on the bottle. Please just come here for a few weeks until he gets his feet under him. He goes back and tells Sam that what he told her was if she leaves now, she's going to be straight back to the booby hatch. Then Frasier puts his foot down and says, I don't like it. Coach tells him, if you let them leave, they're going to be dreaming about each other. But if you keep them together for a couple of weeks, the hatred, And yeah, just really, you see why Kelsey Grammer stuck around in this character for a long time. Just great stuff. Really, really good. Coach in peak coaching, all of them. They decide that Diane is going to stay, and now we are into season 3. Did you guys enjoy the episodes as much as I did?
I did.
Yeah, these are good.
Yeah,
this is kicking off a really great season 3.
Yeah, I thought episode 1 in particular was one of like my 2 or 3 favorite episodes so far. Like just a fabulous start to the season.
Yep. Meaty, but a lot of really laugh out loud moments that I enjoyed. Yeah, just really, really well done stuff. It was interesting to see what Sam looks like, and I feel like I feel like that episode also kind of makes the rest of the series work because whenever you're tempted to say like, oh boy, Norm really drinks too much, or these guys are there all the time, it's like, oh no, 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 this is what we consider problem drinking, and no one here ever does that. So everyone feels okay about it. That, the second time I watched it, I had that moment of thinking that this was not just serving as showing us the devastation that Sam felt after that breakup, but also making us feel better about every other character in this show. Like that episode 1 was doing a lot of work, and
Yeah.
bravo, it was well done.
I thought it was kind of cool that when Sam goes back on the bottle, he essentially becomes the version of Tom Waits that I saw on tour in like 2002.
Oh wow.
Barefoot, fedora, blazer, no tie. I was like, this is great. I could. This is like 30-year-old Dave will watch this all day.
Yeah, just the idea that a fedora means drunk.
Wow.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
It's funny,
it's nice
I'm
that-
hitting this point in my life too. I'm in my late 40s now, 47. Sorry, I just outed Dave's age as well because we went to college together. I remember my friend Larry when he hit his 50s saying, like he got himself a trilby, which is sort of like a fedora. And he said, I just feel like men in their 50s, you don't wear baseball caps anymore. But I wanted a different hat. So I needed a hat. And I was like, oh, okay. And now I just like, I'm staring down the barrel and going, do I need to pick a new hat? Where are we at?
My
Is this
my
okay?
my late Uncle Bill wore the same floppy Boston Red Sox dad cap till his last days, and he was
Nice.
well into his 70s. So
Good.
nah. Fedoras and such, you're thinking too hard about it.
Okay. Honestly, I was more worried about Dave than me. Like I was a little bit worried about me, but it could bankrupt Dave.
Oh no.
Like making that massive a hat switch. I don't know if you've are you familiar with Dave's hat collection, Tookie?
No.
It's epic. It's
I have a lot-
really outstanding.
I have a lot of NBA and ABA branded baseball caps. Frequently, when I feel when I get anxious, I'll scroll on eBay, and this one of the poor choices I've made in life is dealing with anxiety by purchasing baseball caps. So I've got about 50 or so.
Oh wow. Whoa.
There are much worse ways to deal with anxiety.
I get it. I like shoes. I had to kick the sneakerhead habit at one point in college because it was too much.
That's a dangerous game because I think the most I've ever paid for a hat has been like $50 American, but like sneakers, like I've had the urge to veer down that road, and that's a commitment, man.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
I'm not gonna do it.
Don't do
Nope.
it.
Nope. Yeah, I'm trying to think about what I do with it. I think I just eat. It's a different expense.
It's cheaper though. It is cheaper.
Yeah. But the hats last longer.
If I start wearing a fedora, I'm gonna look like Jared Leto's sick uncle.
No.
I want to find out if anyone watching knows, aren't there like apps or programs now where you can just kind of put your head in there and try on different hats? I'm very curious because my head's huge, and I'm really curious if there is a hat other than a baseball cap I can genuinely pull off. Like I'm really afraid I'm going to wind up somehow in like a 10-gallon hat, and because it's going to be the only thing that balances.
You could go with like a nice like wide brim kind of like something that, more akin to like a Indiana Jones style.
Oh, like a Panama hat.
Yeah, a Panama hat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could pull off a Panama hat. I feel like you got to be in it. That's got to be a specific place.
Or a boater hat. A boater hat is nice.
What's a boater hat?
It's like it's a short squat cylinder and then just a round rim.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe I could bring back a bowler or a derby.
No.
Like
No.
really kick it old school.
No.
No?
No.
All right.
I'm trying to help you out.
I appreciate it. I will
Unless
look
you
up
wanna go
boater
like
cats. Hang on.
full Little Tramp. I don't think you want to do that.
No, you'd have to
Definitely
buy
not
it.
the mustache.
No, not the mustache, not the trench coat with the 3 other children in it. Just don't. No.
All right. Real quick, I want to throw out my joke of the week. So Tookie already grabbed one of my favorites. Talking about what Sam really needs. Coach is storming out on his mission. Coach, your apron. He's already got an apron. I loved it so much. I loved it. By the way, unabashedly, throughout season 3, just get ready for most of my jokes of the week to be Coach. I am savoring every moment that I have left with Nick Colasanto this season. I am not going to try to balance it out whenever he's my favorite, because every once in a while I'll be like, wow, I've done a ton of Coach. This is a good one. Yeah, I want to pick. I'm just going to be all over Coach.
Fair.
There's these 2 episodes, which I will remember fondly for the rest of my life as great episodes of TV. I realized on the second watch, every great joke is Coach's, with the exception of maybe Boggs gets a couple. Duncan Ross gets a couple of good lines in his scene with Diane, but Coach is killing it on these 2 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My joke of the
Boggs
week,
underrated. Good call.
He's lovely and delightful, but my joke of the week is also Coach, but it's the moment after the Mai Tai when he's shaking the soaked tie in John Ratzenberger's face and yelling, "Cliffy, Mai Tai, Cliffy, Mai Tai," and John Ratzenberger is hiding his face because he's laughing, and Rhea Perlman, you can see just outwardly cackling behind him, and it's it's a rare moment where they kind of let the camera linger on the cast who is breaking, and it's so delightful. And Nicholas Santos having a blast tormenting his friend, and it was one of my favorite moments I've ever seen on the show.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty spectacular. Pretty spectacular. All right, do you have some 80s moments to share?
I have one, which is the use of the Carla's use of the word boink. I thought that had to be the first time that I had encountered that particular terminology. Asking Sam to stop boinking the waitresses. That seemed like a very 80s bit of terminology for me.
I have a slew of 80s moments. Shall I combine episodes 1 and 2 or just wait on that?
Your call.
Okay. All right. Since this is sort of a composite episode anyway. So in episode 1, Sam sauntering in, like you had mentioned, drunk with the 5 o'clock shadow and the fedora and the cigarette. That more than anything actually reminded me of it's a drunk trope, and it reminded me of anytime they would show Tom from Tom and Jerry kind of messed up at some point. So that felt of its time in a way. The moment when Norm calls Sam a lush face, I haven't heard the word lush used to mean alcoholic in quite some time. And in episode 2, Cliff narrating vacation slides. That slideshow is super, super 80s. A can of Roach Bomb. It's not the pesticide itself. It's the shape of the can, because I feel like cans of bug spray and aerosols in general have streamlined in a way. So the shape of the can was that was very of its time. And of course, in the second episode, Frasier has a motherfucking pager. He has a pager. He has a pager.
Pagers, I will say, these are all tremendous. I do have to say, pagers persevered through the 90s.
They did. But
so I get it. My one thing with pagers is simply that they were 70s through the 90s, pretty common. In the 70s, it was very much, I'm a doctor.
Yeah.
And then in the 80s, it was, I'm a doctor or a drug dealer. And then in the 90s, lots of people had pagers. Right. And then nobody had a pager anymore.
Right. I think in my mind, a 90s pager is like a little rounded edge black device, whereas Frasier's pager was like a silver little brick. So that I feel grounds it within that decade.
Fair. Silver brick pager.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely. I think the judges have ruled Tookie.
What's your 80s moment, Mike?
My 80s moment was mocking mental health.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Of
Yeah.
course.
That was
Yeah.
my 80s moment. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Specifically the. Yeah.
Yikes.
Mhm.
Is this the time to start talking about Fraser Crane?
You know what? Let's plow through the categories, and then I
Okay.
think we need to do a lot of Fraser Crane discussion because obviously this is a huge moment of entry. It's the first episode of Superman in its way because he's going to last a long time, and there's a lot to talk about there and break down. Tookie, how white was this week's episode?
Not so white. This story had a couple of raisins in the oatmeal, a couple people peppered in. So I paid close attention. Episode 1, there was a black man walking down the stairs from Melville's with another person in the cold open. And then there was another black man behind Coach at the bar, a black woman in a red dress behind Cliff and that was in scene 1, both of those people. And then there was another ethnic man. He may have been Middle Eastern. He may have been Latino. I'm not necessarily sure, but he looked like a spicy beige person. So I will call him an ethnic man in the corner, sitting further down from where the black woman in the red dress was. And then in the second scene of episode 1, there was a black man in the corner by the door sitting with his friends in one of those booths. And then in episode 2, there was a black woman. I'm not sure if she's the same extra as last time, but in a different dress, but same fro. She had a fro situation happening. So I'm not sure. And then she was by the back wall behind Cliff. And then a black man passed her by. And then there was another black man behind the bar talking to friends. So all in all, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 people of color in the composite of this episode. Not bad.
For an hour of Cheers. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, I feel like we have a very confusing Sam creepy quotient this week. On the one hand, he gets healthy, but I feel like he's fairly creepy both episodes. I mean, the drunk creep is obvious. The not being able to keep his hands off of his waitress is obvious. But even after he sobers up, he still hooks up with the waitress's sister. So I feel like we've got a high Sam creepy quotient this week. I am open to counter arguments, though I don't expect them.
Yeah, I mean, I think. I mean, the fact that he walks in with 2 baton twirling parade ladies has got to set this number at a fairly high mark. So I've got to put Sam at I got to put him at an 8.75.
I mean, he's at 37 for me this week. Real high. That's off the chart. I was like, my God.
Yeah. It's right up there. Yeah, even after making me look at your feet. It's like that made it worse for me. I want to see your feet. Wear shoes. What the hell's the matter with you?
Also, he kisses Carla on the head in the most dismissive gesture I've ever seen for somebody who's your employee. That's that bad boss, bad boyfriend, creepy through the roof, Sam. And I feel like we're only gonna. This is really the birth of the next phase of like the Sam Malone Lothario. We got a little bit of a break from this past season.
Yeah, but coming back with a vengeance, season 3. Yes. All right. Let's break down the episode a little deeper. We've gone through the categories. We've covered the storylines. We know what happened. And we gotta talk Frasier for a little bit. Kelsey Grammer comes in. He's supposed to be a recurring character for a little while and does so well and gets such a reaction that he lasts for the rest of the run of the series, much to the chagrin of Shelley Long. A story that Kelsey Grammer loves telling is that it hit a point where Shelley kept saying, so when are we getting rid of the Frasier character? Like, really, this is enough of the Frasier character. It's over now. It's time for him to go. because I think the plan was he was supposed to be in some episodes, and then they were going to keep him through season 3 when the wedding didn't work out. And then after they broke up, Shelley Long was like, "Why is he still here?" And they just said, "Because he's too funny and he does too well and he's an important voice in the room." And I think something that was unspoken is Shelley could kind of kept thinking, "I'm the erudite one in the room. That's my character's lane. This guy is in my lane." And I kind of get it. I kind of get where Shelley Long was coming from, but I also get, hey, quick, gotta get me fired, lady. Like, you're above the credits. You're Diane of Sam and Diane, and you keep saying that you want to go.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, Kelsey Grammer just has to stay. He gets such a big reaction. And it's fun to see just how well established he is almost immediately. You get who this guy is. And that Frasier is really the Frasier that you see for so long. I mean, there are characters that change over time. And that's very much who Frasier becomes. I mean, Frasier on the show, Frasier, I feel like is a little more snooty, perhaps, but not a ton. I mean, it's roughly that character.
Yeah, it's I was really surprised by how fully formed that character showed up, and how much having sort of grown a little bit tired of Kelsey Grammer, I guess. I was shocked by how much I was enjoying. Like, from the moment he opened his mouth and he's got this incredible instrument, and that voice just like kind of like booms out. I was like, yeah, this is working. This is great. Give me Frasier. I got sucked right in to the Frasier vortex.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did my best to try and separate the artist from the art with regard to the Kelsey Grammer's recent politics. I don't know how he's doing now. Haven't checked on him, but I my enjoyment of Frasier, I think, overshadows the show. Frasier, the show, overshadows his antics because he's not as overboard as Kirstie Alley. So he has exhibited some level of chill in his personal / political life. So I give him a little bit more grace in that sense. But yeah, and I also would say, like, in Kelsey Grammer's defense against Shelley Long, the show is set in Boston, which is a mecca of education and snootery and eruditeness. And how dare she think she could be the only brain in the room? No disrespect, but it's Boston.
Yeah. And at a bar in Beacon Hill, too.
Yeah.
It's not the basement in Alston.
Yeah.
Where at that time, all right, we're not getting a lot of Harvard psychiatrists in here. Beacon Hill, you're getting them.
It's
in
not
theory,
like,
especially Kelsey Grammer, Frasier's character lived up the block. He lived closer to them than anyone except probably Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Sam was probably very nearby as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Frasier embodied the entire like Boston Brahmin aura, kind of. Mm-hmm. That's his whole vibe. So I am sold on him as that kind of character.
And he's really he's serving such an important purpose right now because, like, Diane, her connection to the bar now is really tenuous. Mm-hmm. And one thing I think Kelsey Grammer does really, really well over the run of the show, and it really started in this episode, is you can see this guy like kind of wanting to fit in here and finding some like emotional need that was being met by being a part of this community. Like, he wants to be there. He wants, like, he's lacking. I think the subtext is that he's lacking this in other areas of his life. And then we see the subtext kind of like play out over the ensuing seasons. He wants this. And it gives, there's so much comedy that they can mine from this guy trying to fit in and not being successful in a way that Diane can't, because Diane can sort of walk away. She couldn't when she was with Sam, but now it's, if things get too spicy, she's going to walk out the door. And so, like, having Frasier, his emotional need to fit in, like, anchoring her here, is going to work for the show for the next
Mhm.
couple of seasons.
Yeah, Frasier needs them in a way Diane never does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
hmm
Agreed.
And really, from the moment of the snipe hunt and moving forward, you can tell like he wants this. And we find out from his backstory later on that he never had this growing up and that this is important to him. And he craves it and he seeks it out and he values it. And Diane as a character can't ever do that. So yeah, it's like Diane, if Diane really needed to be in the bar and wanted to connect with those characters.
Hmm.
Yeah, Diane never really seeks connection with most of the people in the bar as well. And Frasier does. It's like having a Diane that wants to be there.
Yeah, Diane did it a little bit in season 1, and then like those parameters were established, and they're going to basically stay like fixed now until she leaves.
Yeah.
It's like we've pointed out, it's only going to get harder and harder for Diane because as the bar kind of like shuts her out. Yeah,
And you can tell that the writers know that she's leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, really, at this point, everyone knows Shelley Long is not renegotiating. She's not re-upping her contract. They would have to blow her away with a monetary offer, and they all kind of feel like so many other characters are popular that they can get by without her. So the writing is already, it's not on the wall, it's in the script. They are not trying to pivot her character towards fitting in and lasting here for 10 years and 200 episodes. They are starting to write her out of the show, and you can feel it in these first 2.
Yeah, and in fact, like she should be like everything. When I think everything about the writing in this episode screams that she should walk away from this place and never come back for her own mental health, and she doesn't. And they're obviously going to mine a lot of humor from that for the next like couple of seasons. But yeah, you can see it's got a shelf life.
And the other interesting thing about the Frasier character and the Diane character is you feel like as much as Frasier doesn't have guys like this that he wants to bond with, he has places he could go. Like he could go and hang out at the Harvard Club with other doctors. He can hang out with people at the hospital. There are doctors and upper crust people for him to spend time with, and he's choosing these people. This is something he wants. Diane doesn't really have anywhere else to go, does she? Which is an odd character dynamic that's always been there with Diane. Like she doesn't, she goes from school to school. She doesn't have any close friends. She can't really get another job that's, equal to her education. She stuck there.
Oh,
it's
froze.
Times where it's not as much fun because she's there. Oh,
you're back.
Okay.
You're back.
Am I back? Okay.
Yeah, you're back.
Yeah, Diane is stuck there in a way that Frasier is not. So there's the class humor in a more fun way. Yeah, you can absolutely see why. Okay, yep, we got to keep Frasier here because you're going. All right, how much of that was frozen?
No, that was all good. That was
good.
Okay, good. Nice. And yeah, you can. Yeah. The other thing I think of when I watch this was Nick Colasanto looked thinner.
Yeah,
Like you can just kind of see. And I like all the jokes were so good for a coach. This is part of me that is looking at these next few episodes and going, are they just writing everything they can for him because they know they're not getting another season with him? So it's like everyone wants their favorite coach line in now.
That hurts.
Every banger was coaches. Yeah.
Ugh. I don't like it.
Yeah. But I mean, when we keep talking about all these great jokes and how all the best jokes were coaches, this is a talented cast. I feel like on some level it has to be that the writers are trying to get all their favorite coach stuff in now because they can hear the clock ticking.
Yeah. At the very least, you can see like you can certainly sort of like imagine a future where maybe this guy steps away from the show. I like, and there's been so much talk, people saying like, he was having so much trouble remembering lines. He's hiding scripts around the bar. He's writing stuff on the floor and things. There's a sense of like, maybe this is, maybe this is too much for this guy, and he's gonna eventually kind of walk away. And obviously that's not what ends up happening, sadly. But yeah, you can kind of see the strain showing on him, I think.
Yeah. And yet he's brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant 2 episodes for Coach. Yep.
Yeah. Even with everything that was going on behind the scenes, on screen, consistent. So that's a testament to a great actor.
Yeah.
Which also, R.I.P. Michael K. Williams.
Oh boy, yeah.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, that was tough. That was a part of our tough break. Yeah, Michael K. Williams. Man, if you had never seen The Wire, like, you want to talk about a breakout character that was not. So, I mean, I realize it's very odd to compare Frasier to Omar, but as we talk about it, the similarity is this idea of when you get this undeniable talent on screen who somehow gets this character and what makes them important and can convey that way. Like, Michael K. Williams did that with Omar, where he's this character, and as soon as he's on the screen doing anything, no one else is there. No one else is there. Just unbelievable. And like, it's such a shame that after The Wire, they never found another way to showcase such a huge talent in the way it deserved to be showcased. He worked, but never in what he deserved, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what I can surmise from what you just said is that Frasier was out here robbing drug dealers.
I mean, I don't think someone as a consulting psychiatrist had access to that kind of cash without a side hustle. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
That's all I'm saying. Frasier coming. Frasier coming.
Imagine.
Frasier and Lilith on the streets of Balmer.
Oh, I would no. See, Lilith is the kingpin. Frasier's just the muscle.
Lilith is definitely the brains
of the two. If one of them was carrying a sawed-off shotgun, it's Lilith.
It's Lilith. Yeah.
Yeah, there is no question.
I know.
Frasier's pushing the wheelchair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Oh God, that broke my heart. That hit me harder than I expected it to when Michael K. Williams died.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially because it was so unexpected. And I hate that it would be posthumous, but I do hope he does win the Emmy that he's nominated for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the most recent thing that he was nominated for?
Shoot. Lovecraft County.
Yes.
Or yeah.
Lovecraft Country.
Or Country, rather. Yes.
Which is a show I want to watch and people have recommended, but the recommendations also came with the postscript of, I have been fucked up for 2 days because of the last episode of Lovecraft Country. And so I was like, you know what? Like the last year and a half has not felt like the time for me to jump into something that's going to leave me fucked up for a couple of days. So I really feel, but at the same time, I don't know that we're going to stop feeling that way anytime soon. So I'm like, at some point, I just got to watch Lovecraft Country.
Just, plow through it. Get through it. Get through it while you can.
I got to suck it up.
My last important note, though, regarding the late Michael K. Williams is that he and Idris Elba are both phenomenal actors in their own right. Of course, we give Michael K. Williams an edge in that regard. But they're both really skilled actors who understand the assignment. Whenever they have a role to play, they understand the assignments. But I think the only hindrance that Idris Elba has is that he has too many assignments, whereas Michael K. Williams took the right amount of assignments.
I feel like I wanted more assignments for Michael K.
I know, but
I mean,
for what you got,
there's something weird with Idris, just because I feel like we all acknowledge his talent, and yet at the same time, he's gotten so many swings, and none of them have really gone out of the park, have they? I mean, it was Luther, and I don't mean to undermine that,
Oh
which
yeah.
was, of course, but it was a BBC success that I don't think even was a gigantic hit, was it? And then he was great on The Wire, but was never the main character, and he died off fairly early. And then it feels like for the past 10 plus years, it's been like, Idris Elba. But there's never been anything where you go, man, did you see Idris Elba's new thing? Wow, was that great? It's always like, yeah, that Idris Elba thing. It was okay. He was good. Wasn't great.
Pacific Rim was cool.
I love Pacific Rim, but I geeked out over Pacific Rim. He was the fourth lead in Pacific Rim.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't, and he was doing his thing, but it's not like you could go like, oh man, did you see the new Idris Elba movie, Pacific Rim? He might have been the fifth lead after some of the kaiju.
Oh yeah.
By the
When
way,
he wipes-
I do love the first Pacific Rim very, very much.
When he wipes the blood from the nose and he knows that's it, like, oh, it's the most human moment in that whole bonkers movie.
I don't, Dave. That felt like a side swipe at Pacific Rim.
If I get divorced, page 1 of the agreement is going to be difference of opinion over Pacific Rim.
What?
I am very pro Pacific Rim.
Oh, thank
That's a
you.
film- that's a film that has driven a wedge into my marriage and continues to be here.
I'm just going to say this: Pacific Rim will always be here for you, Dave.
Yeah, well, that's comforting. It's
Mhm.
cold comfort, but it's comforting. Mike and I are in drift.
Of all the films, I brought that up facetiously, but here we are.
Oh, Tookie, did you not enjoy Pacific Rim?
I mean, I did, but
I loved Pacific Rim.
where
But I had a really nostalgic connection to the giant robot series of the 70s, 80s. The Force 5, that was a big part of my childhood. All of those giant robots battling the Robies, and those were very, very big. And to see it brought to life in this way that was very true to their origins, but so real and respectful. And I thought the narrative worked. I thought everyone was committed to it. There was nothing tongue in cheek about it. It was like, we are bringing this world, we are making it real, and we're making you care. And I totally cared. I was crushed when Idris Elba died. Spoiler alert. It really. And that moment where he reaches out to the little girl after her city gets destroyed. Oh my God. I was a wreck.
You got Ron Perlman doing Ron Perlman things.
Right.
And you got giant I don't know why they make other movies.
All I'm saying, that movie is a masterpiece. The only thing that could have improved it was if Nick Colasanto was somehow in the drift with somebody. If there was a drift with Rhea Perlman and Nick Colasanto, and they saved humanity.
I believe it.
Yes.
I believe it. I believe it.
Perfection.
That's I don't know where I send the check, but I'm going to send a check.
When the GoFundMe starts for that, I'm in.
Just that. Yeah.
I'm in.
The Nick Colasanto Rhea Perlman hologram show at Bonnaroo. I am there.
It's all possible now. It's all possible. You just have to want it bad enough. All right. Any final thoughts about Rebound, episode 1 and 2?
Well done. Well executed.
Yep.
Drew me back into the series for sure. The season finale of season 2, the finale of season 2 was solid, but this is what's really drawing me into these characters. Yeah.
This is, I have a lot of love for season 2 finale. I thought it was really well done. I also get that it wasn't very much a sitcom. Like, they got so heavy that it wasn't fun, and I'm not dying to rewatch either of those two episodes. I was delighted to rewatch both of these two episodes. And yeah, it was just a great start to what I think is going to be a great season. Like I said, just kind of I didn't watch the episodes, but I scanned the upcoming episodes and I'm like, I remember that, like that one, like that one, like that one, like that one. There weren't any episodes that made me go like, oh yeah, we got that one coming up. All right, well, we'll get through it. Just a lot of episodes I remembered well and remember fondly.
I just want to restate how great it was that they like tweaked Glynis Johns for not being available / maybe too expensive by making joke after joke after joke about Diane's mother being emotionally unavailable. I love that that stream of humor. I also want to shout out PJ Souls, who played Julie in episode 2, the last waitress that Sam having an affair with. She quits when she finds out he's been dating her sister. She was just kind of interesting. She was married to Dennis Quaid for about 8 years.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Had a long career in Hollywood and had a part in the John Travolta vehicle Boy in the Bubble, which we talked a little bit about a couple of weeks ago.
Was that her? Was she the girl he falls in love with?
I believe that's her. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
So, time being a flat circle.
Yeah.
PJ Souls gets a few lines in part 2, and one of the few times we get a woman extra character who actually has like a little bit of dialogue and a little bit of an arc. So it was nice. It was nice to see that.
Shout out
That's
PJ
really
Souls.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good for her.
Very
Sorry
nice.
for her sister. Great for her.
I'm glad she got out when she did.
Yeah.
All right. So Dave got to plug the concert while I was frozen and moving. Tookie, you got anything to plug?
Not for this week. I am taking a couple of spa days. I have earned it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. As usual, I have nothing. So just have a nice weekend, everybody. All right. Be happy. Stay safe. Pour a little out for Michael K. Williams because he deserves it. And hopefully everyone is okay next week. We will be jumping back into season 3, episode 3. It's just a half hour. So we don't need to do quite the marathon session next week. We'll see what happens. We could be here 2 hours. Who knows? I am Mike. That's Dave. That's Tookie. Love you, everybody. See you next Tuesday.